Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast with our next guest, our closer, Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Teddy, welcome in, buddy. How you feeling?
Hey, man, coffee is for closers, but all I got's a water over here. I'm doing all right, Drew. I had Toledo last night. I'm still, my butt still hurts. The games where you're covering for 59 minutes and 20 seconds, or whatever, 59 minutes and 40 seconds, and then you lose after they recover the onside kick at the end. It's like a little slap in the face, but we're recovering today. It's okay. They do happen. They can and will happen. And unfortunately, I had one of those last night. So you take a breath and you move on.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if you haven't seen it, last night's Western Michigan versus Toledo game, I had a little piece of Toledo as well, Teddy. That was one of the worst ways to lose I've seen in quite some time, Teddy.
Well, I mean, the worst beats, the very worst beats come on unders. Okay, the games that that's the games that are nothing into the fourth quarter, and then now the defenses get tired. So the worst beats come on unders. But the ones I'll tell you the play that I don't like, and it's part of football. It is what it is. But it's the onside kick, man. It's like, look, you're up 2 scores with a minute left. You're supposed to win those games. And I had one on Saturday. I had Arizona State on Saturday. I had Arizona State on the money line in that game, as well as plus the points. The clients all cash plus the points.
Yeah.
I had a money line ticket in my pocket. They're up 2 scores with a minute left or 2 minutes left, whatever it was. So the onside kick recovery is the one that makes me a little bit crazy. And if you watched last night in the Toledo Western game, where there literally are 5 rockets right around the ball, and they all flail in different directions. And the one guy who was on the ground for Western just kind of reaches his arm out and tucks it in. You're like, oh, man. I mean, you felt it coming before it came. And then, whatever. That's part of the nature of what we do. And you have to be able to take tough beats and, whatever. I went out and, kicked the dog. I don't really kick the dog, but, you yelled at the kid for, and have your minute, you have your we all have our moments, but you got to be able to not let it linger into the next day or the next week, and that's really important. As handicappers, there's a loss I'm going to talk about in one of the games we talk about today that I think has legitimate hangover effect for a team this week, and I don't think they're going to be able to turn the page on it. So, as bettors, we want to be aware of that. And it's the part of the nature of what we do. And I've been running really good, Drew. I mean, I can't say that I've been running bad. I've been running great for the last couple of weeks. Have been, but that was a frustrating one last night. You want them all. You want to cash all the ones you think you're going to cash, and last night was one of those I didn't.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes out there, guys. If you haven't seen it, go check it. Western Michigan pulled the old Dan Marino, fake the grounding, throw for the touchdown, and if you had Western Michigan, it was a great win for you. But if you had Toledo, as you can tell in Teddy's voice, and kicking the dog, yelling at the kid, and by the way, your dog is awesome. I hope you really didn't kick him.
No, of course not. And I probably did yell at the kid though. But whatever, he shouldn't have left his toys all over the place.
It's the way it goes. And sports bettors out there know what you're talking about, Teddy. And Teddy has seen it well, guys. Check him out, WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Hot 73% all sports since Halloween, 6-0, 100% in the NFL. So check out WagerTalk or SportsMemo.com for Teddy's top plays. And guys, this is the section number 4 of the Every Game on the Board podcast, simulcast live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, 1:30 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays. This does it for the Every Game on the Board section here. So we'll finish it out from rotation number 205, 206, Penn State, Nebraska, through the end of the college football card here. So let's start it off in the Big Ten, Teddy. We got Penn State at Nebraska. Looks like the Nittany Lions, -3 road favorites, 56.5 being the total in Lincoln.
Yeah, a little bit of juice on a lot of those threes for Penn State. 3 -15s, I'm 3 and 3 -20s. Modest betting markets. But of course, it's a Penn State team that hasn't started 0-4 since 2001. They're sitting 0-3 right now, and off a real no-show last time out against Maryland. When you can't run the football against Maryland, when the offensive line gives up 13 sacks over the last 2 games. This is a team that returned 4 offensive line starters. And Clifford's taking hits. The running game isn't working, and they haven't been able to dominate up front at all. I've got my concerns. I'll tell you this. It's a Nebraska or pass for me type of game. I do not want James Franklin's squad this week, even though in theory they're supposed to be better than Nebraska. Certainly the line says they're better than Nebraska. Nebraska's only 9-17 under Scott Frost, And again, they lose to Ohio State, no shame there. The loss to Northwestern last time out wasn't pretty. He didn't score in the second half of that ball game. Scott Frost, quote, "The guys are impatient, just like I'm impatient to get this changed. I keep saying it, but once it turns, it's going to turn in a big way. And we need to have that happen soon." And yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. Interesting quote, another quote from the Nebraska side of the equation, because, of course, Adrian Martinez, who really, hasn't gotten a whole lot better since he was a freshman, and now he's a senior. This is a team that has one offensive touchdown their last 19 full possessions, and Luke McCaffrey came in and played the last 3 series against Northwestern last week. Scott Frost talking about he may make his first start with the Frosh McCaffrey here. Wide receiver Cade Warner asked about the 2 quarterbacks, quote, "Unwavering belief in both of them. I think Adrian moving forward will work on the thing he needs to work on, and Luke is always ready. He's ecstatic. He's electric." So the quotes I'm getting out of the Nebraska side are positive ones. I'm not getting that same sense from the Penn State side. I'll just put it that way. And, of course, Franklin talking about, is he going to bench Clifford? Quote, "I'm a lead with love guy. I always have been. Obviously, when you're having success like we had to, that's easy to do. But right now, we're being tested." That said, Clifford's their QB. They're not making a change despite his early season struggles. I know I'm not laying the points with Penn State on the road in this game. At 0-3, they're not a team I trust. And when you talk about who's got upside over the back half of the campaign, I was trying to, of the conference that just started, I went and made a little bet on, bet against list just right now, for MAC, for Mountain West, for Big Ten, and for Pac-12. Now let's see, see if we can ride some of these teams early, which is something I should have done in the other conferences, but didn't. So I'm like, I'm not making that mistake again. I want teams to ride and I want teams to fade. And I've got Nebraska now as a potential team to ride in the Big Ten after their slow start. The quotes are right. The talent level's there. The energy's there. And I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska ends up being a bet-on team over the back half of the campaign.
Teddy, it's interesting you say that, because when I think about the Cornhuskers, I think about Scott Frost, and I sometimes wonder if he almost wishes, he was still in Orlando coaching UCF, just with kind of the way the 2 programs have gone since then. But I don't disagree with you. And one thing I remember you saying coming out of the pandemic, and we were talking about baseball. I don't even think we were recording this. It was just me and you talking. And you brought up the fact of looking at teams in 2020 of teams quitting. Therefore, like making a fade list. And that could be even more important in 2020 than in years past. And this is a matchup of, combined, these 2 teams are 0-5 straight up and ATS here. So Penn State, circling Penn State as, hey, a fade candidate here in Big Ten play. I mean, is that something you're looking to make money just straight betting against the Nittany Lions?
No, my bet on is Nebraska. It's not a bet against Penn State. And Penn State, you should have been betting against Penn State already, and maybe bet against them here. But I think that Nebraska, in terms of, where we are in terms of the marketplace versus the commodity itself, I think Nebraska has potential to make their backers money over the back half of the campaign. I really do.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, good stuff in the Big Ten to start it off here, Teddy. We got 207, 208 up next. This is a good one, Teddy. SMU at Tulsa. Looks like Tulsa -2 in the hook, 64 being the total. I like this Tulsa team. I think defensively they match up well against the offense for SMU. I don't know. This is a good one in the AAC, though. Interested in your thoughts.
Sonny Dykes likes the Tulsa team, too. One of the advantages of only having 9 games, because a lot of times I'm doing 14, 15 games, and we got to book through them. One of the advantages of having 9 is I get to go out and find coaches' quotes that I can use during the pod. Sonny Dykes talking about Tulsa and Philip Montgomery. Quote, "You got to give Coach Montgomery a lot of credit. When you say, hey, what makes a really good football team? It's playing hard, it's playing gritty, it's having good players, and the guys compete really hard. You can tell that Tulsa plays hard for one another. They celebrate after plays together. They play the game the way it's supposed to be played. When you play somebody like that, they're hard to beat. They're not going to beat themselves. We're going to need to match it from the very first play of the game this week to have a chance to win." So, Dykes is telling his team, be ready. And, of course, the last 2 years, and for all of these matchups, I'm going to give recent meetings. They played in the last 2 years. I'm going to give you the scores and the point spreads. Last year, SMU 43-37 win by 6. They were minus 12.5, didn't cover. 2018 was a field goal game. 27-24. SMU was only 2.5 in that contest. And again, here we're looking at a favorite of less than a field goal. Tulsa's 3-0 in AAC play. SMU's 4-1. SMU's 7-1 on the season, and their only loss of the season came against Cincinnati. There's no shame in that, but Cincinnati and Tulsa have a commonality. I said the two best defenses in the conference. So Shane Buechele couldn't move the football against Cincy. Buechele's had an incredible year, 67% completion, 20-3 touchdown to interception ratio. They have plenty of skill position talent around him. But you're right about Tulsa. They're a team. They're a feisty little team that from week one this season, we've seen that defense step up. Remember the game against Oklahoma State where they gave a battle in that contest? Mm-hmm. They had a COVID bye last week. It was a Navy COVID issue, not there. But it wasn't called until Friday. So it's not like you have extra time that Tulsa was preparing for SMU for 2 weeks. This has been a dog series. The Dogs covered the last 4, and the Mustangs 10-3 straight up their last 13 on the road.
Yeah. You bring up Tulsa. That defense compared to Cincinnati, I'm with you, Teddy. It's probably number one, Cincinnati, in terms of the defense in the AAC. Tulsa's right there behind them. The Oklahoma State game, UCF game, they knocked off UCF. SMU, I've said it a couple times, Teddy. It's the type of offense under Sonny Dykes. I want to be betting on SMU when talent is on their side, meaning they can kind of run away from their opponent. I don't mind laying points with SMU, but when it's against light competition like this, like I think their offense is going to be up against the Tulsa defense, that's not the type of profile I want SMU. That's the reason, guys, I'm looking towards the Tulsa Hurricane in this one. Under 3 home favorites at home. We got North Texas, UAB up next here, Teddy. UAB minus 2 touchdowns at home, 65 the total in Legion Field.
Last year, UAB's minus 3. They win 26-21, winning cover tight. Worth noting in that game, North Texas, 35 carries for 21 yards. UAB, 48 carries for 203 yards. One team was able to dominate the line of scrimmage. 2018, UAB's minus 2. They win that game 29-21. So they've been able to beat North Texas. They haven't been able to blow them off the field. North Texas is not a team I'm excited about. 5-18 spread run since mid-2018 for Seth Luttrell and company. They've already had 3 games postponed and canceled this season, including each of the last 2 weeks. They didn't play UTEP. They didn't play La Tech. And again, the issues came from the other side. But this is not a team in rhythm at all. And UAB has their quarterback cleared. Tyler Johnson was cleared to return. Didn't play much last week, but he may well start this time around. Ralph Michaels gave me a great situation, a system play. A team that led into the fourth quarter in each of the last 2 games and lost them both. And that's UAB. UAB led Lafayette 20-17 in the fourth quarter, lost 24-20. Then they led Louisiana Tech 31-17 in the fourth quarter and lost in double overtime. Since 2014, teams in this system, fourth quarter leads blown each of the last 2 games, 25% ATS, just 7-21 against the number with a single push. And they're just 13-16 straight up. So, that's one of those systems that makes sense, the disappointed team. I don't want the dog, but I don't want the favorite here either. Easy pass for me.
Teddy, next game up, we got South Carolina at Ole Miss. We're seeing the Rebels minus 11 in Oxford, 70.5 being the total. Last week, South Carolina off of a bye. I was on them against Texas A&M, and they were nowhere close taking that loss, Teddy. I don't know, this South Carolina team, I think this is an interesting week because you talk about fade teams in 2020. This is maybe a candidate here talking about the Gamecocks.
So you and I said there's one team that absolutely would be that team. That did I say that or did I just think that? I don't remember if I said it. But when you were talking about it, I'm like, there's one team that stands out, and that team is the South Carolina. Because last week's game, I was with you. I had money on it on South Carolina. I advised my clients to put money on South Carolina, and it was over at kickoff. I shouldn't say that. It was a weird first quarter because they kept taking shots. Colin Hill took a bunch of shots. I think it was like 7 or 8 downfield throws, and I loved it. But they didn't connect on any of them.
Well, one of them was dropped for a touchdown. I thought that could have changed the game, right out the gate.
It might have changed the game, But I like the aggressive strategy I didn't like the body language when things started to go south.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they fell behind, all of a sudden it's receivers, looking and going, yeah, I'm not going to run after that one.
I know.
I mean, the effort was not there for South Carolina last week on national TV at home off a bye. And that stands out. Okay. So I will not have my money on South Carolina this week. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
When again, some lessons, unfortunately, you learn the hard way, but off a blowout and a bye, it's an optimal spot for South Carolina there. And they got waxed and they didn't show up. Lane Kiffin, quote, I was surprised by the points difference against Texas A&M. I know statistically they're not great on defense, talking about South Carolina, but they look really good to me with really good players and a lot of twitch up front. It's not like they've been up and down the year, maybe some injuries, some COVID cases also. The Gamecocks defense is 11th in the SEC in total yards, 11th in scoring defense. They're giving up 250 passing yards a game, 170 rushing yards a game. That's bad news against Ole Miss, right? Ole Miss, second in the SEC in total offense, third in scoring offense. The issues they've had have all been on the defensive side of the football. It's and of course, worth noting, Ole Miss is coming off a bye. They had extra time to prepare for this. Kiffin, quote, we got a head start last week with some stuff on South Carolina. We have to keep watching. Our opponents played really well at times this year. I think have some really good players and give people some problems up front with movements and stunts and good rushers on third down. We have to play really well. I like the way Kiffin's approaching this. I like the fact that they have extra time to prepare for it. And I don't want any part of South Carolina. Don't want to overreact to last week, but back-to-back no-shows you don't want to underreact to. And this is something I found in college football that's very real. All right, team gets blown out and non-competitive off the field once. They're going to happen again the next time they get smacked, and it's going to happen again the next time they get smacked. The teams that lose touch and quit on the field, if it happens once, it'll happen again. They may well be outclassed here against an Ole Miss team that isn't all that good, but they can certainly put up points in bunches.
Yeah, good point there, Teddy. In the SEC, heading to the Sun Belt now, we got South Alabama.
Real quick, so that Muschamp opened up the QB competition in practice this week. Whether it's Colin Hill going again, whether it's last year starter Ryan Helinski, or it's the Frost Luke Doty, there may well be a QB change this week.
Okay, we got South Alabama, Louisiana Lafayette up next, 25th ranked Louisiana Lafayette. Looks like the Raging Cajuns laying 16 at home, 53.5 being the total.
Oh, I know. I never look at rankings right now. I mean, I never, the entire season. I went to go see because I had to talk about the Ohio State game and the Alabama game, and I went to look at the rankings to see if they were 1 and 2. And it's like, no, Ohio State's 3 for some reason. But Notre Dame's moved up to 2. So, but La is not one of the top 25 teams in the country. Okay. They're not close to being one of the top 25 teams in the country. 2019, minus 27.5. Raging Cajuns win by 10 at South Alabama, 37-27. 2018, the Raging Cajuns laying 19.5. Again, they win 48-38. Don't sniff a point spread cover in that ball game. Now they're taking money all week. It's been Lafayette money. They're 1-5 ATS their last 6. They haven't been covering these numbers. Now, total bettors want to be aware of this. All right, Lafayette went for it four times on fourth down against Arkansas State last week. When you have teams that go for it on fourth down again and again, those are much better over bets than under bets. And Billy Napier, quote, the ones we didn't get, I would call those again. So he's just saying that we're going to be really aggressive on fourth down. Worth noting in this situation, I don't know how much it's worth noting, but again, when you're laying 3 scores, Lafayette's got kicker problems. The starter, Nate Snyder's missed 5 out of 10, and he got missed from 30 yards against Arkansas State and got benched last week. They may be a team that eschews field goals and goes for it even more on fourth down this time around, which bodes well potentially for over bettors.
It's interesting. You bring up the totals here. I mean, against Arkansas State, the total was near 70. Now we're all the way down in the low 50s here. And I agree with you, Teddy. I mean, it's not about agreeing with you. That's the truth. I mean, if a team's going for it on fourth down, I don't know, this 53.5, this is looking a little short. You like the over?
Well, South Alabama 6-1 to the under this year. The only over they played came against UAB, and they scored 10 points in that ball game. They scored 17 at Georgia Southern 2 games out, and they got to 6 against Coastal Carolina last time out. So there's a reason the total's as low as it is. That said, if I'm playing the total, over is the only way I would look, despite South Alabama's offensive deficiencies.
I like calling them USA, Teddy, University of South Alabama, the Jaguars in Mobile, Alabama. We've got 219, 220 up next. Rice, Louisiana Tech in Ruston, Louisiana. We're seeing Louisiana Tech minus 2-point home favorites. Sub 50 total here, Teddy, 49.5.
Sure. I mean, the last 2 meetings, last year, Louisiana Tech's minus 9. They win 23-20. Don't cover. Don't sniff a point spread cover. 2018, they're minus 24. They win 28-13. Don't cover. Don't sniff a cover. Both games stay way under the total, or well under the total. And that's, I'm certainly not playing the over in this one. I don't believe in La Tech's offense. The running game hasn't been any good. Luke Anthony, the QB, has been, he's got 3 touchdown passes the last 4 games. All right. It's a mediocre offense at best. At best. And, I talk about teams that have had their issues. La Tech's had all kinds of issues with COVID all season. Rice in this point spread range, you're like, how good is this Rice team? The QB's been good. Mike Collins, senior quarterback, 8-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, 475 passing yards. This is a guy who's a TCU transfer. So, facing Conference USA defenses instead of Big 12 defenses has certainly helped his potential. But on the other hand, for a program pedigree standpoint, La Tech's a good notch or 2 ahead of Rice. It's not a game I'm going to play. Rice is playing better football. I don't know. I don't have a strong feel for it. Lean under is the way that I lean in this one, like the recent meetings.
All right, guys, this is a Sports Memo podcast going over each and every game, college football, every game on the board. This is the last section. You can go back and listen to the first 3 sections on the WagerTalk YouTube channel or wherever you're downloading your podcasts at. The Sports Memo podcast. Check out Teddy Covers on WagerTalk or sportsmemo.com. He's seeing it well in not only college football, in the NFL, 6-0, 100% November NFL, and 71% NFL 5% for the full season. He's also hitting 57% in the NFL since week 1 of 2015. So not only kind of the short sample size, he's got the long-term stat record to go with it. So check him out at WagerTalk and sportsmemo.com. Talking about, Teddy, you were talking about teams, maybe having some trouble here. These next 2 teams, man, Southern Miss and Western Kentucky. Talk about teams having some trouble. Western Kentucky laying 6. I think that speaks volumes about this Southern Miss team. 47 being the total in this one, Teddy.
Well, I mean, Western Kentucky was supposed to be the best team in the conference this year. And when you look at it, I don't spend a lot of time worrying about preseason concepts in November. And yet, you look at any preseason guy, there's Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers at the top. They blew out this team. They beat them up pretty good last year, 28-10. They're only 3.5-point favorites. Southern Miss was 3.5-point favorites in that game. I'm sorry, the game stayed under the total. Of all the games that I went through and did a cursory weather look for all of these, the only one that we're talking about that there could be any weather conditions is this one. It is supposed to rain in Murfreesboro on Saturday afternoon. I talked about the teams, we talked a little bit about teams that we're concerned with and what do they have to play for. And Western Kentucky, again, going up against Taggart, going up against their former coach at FAU. They played a hard-fought game and they still lost. They covered the spread the first time they covered a spread all year, but they lose the game. And every quote from Western Kentucky after the game was rough, why did I say Murfreesboro? They're not playing in Murfreesboro. They're playing in where's Western Kentucky? I'm spacing for a minute.
Is it in Bowling Green?
Yes, thank you. It's in Bowling Green. I was reading the Bowling Green paper. That's where I got these quotes from. Yes, in Bowling Green. Murfreesboro, of course, Middle Tennessee. Tyson Helton, telling the media about how much there is to play for. Quote, there's a lot to play for still. Number one, we're very blessed in this day and age to get an opportunity to play the game. I'll start with that. We're happy to play. Number two, from a pride standpoint, we're representing our school, our program, our fan base. I think it's really important we continue to play hard. It is what it is, winning or losing. I think that our fan base sees the football team that fights, scratches, and claws and gives you everything they've got. It may not come up the way we want it to come up. They were down after the FAU loss, but they're a resilient team. I expect nothing less for them to come back and be ready to go to work, blah, blah, blah. I don't like it. I didn't like that quote. Reading between the lines, when your coach is telling your team and they still got a bunch of games left, hey, you still have something to play for, pride, that's not a team I want to lay points with. Western Kentucky has, 2 wins this year? Both of them came by a field goal. All right. Now, Southern Miss has had a hell of a year. Third head coach now. Hobson resigned, and maybe he resigned because he saw the writing on the wall for what this team looked like, And then he got replaced by Scotty Walden, and then Walden got COVID, and then he took the Austin Peay job. So, now it's Tim Billings is their third head coach for the year. And he's been the head coach of all of 2 weeks. But this quote stood out to me. Defensive back Natron Brooks, Jr., quote, a lot of stuff's been going on, but the biggest thing about the people who are here now, the players, everyone wants to be here. So it's easy for everyone to keep together as a team because all the players that didn't want to be here, they opted out. So everyone who's here actually bought in and wants to be here. Every week, regardless of win, lose, or draw, we all come together as a team and we just keep the same positive energy moving forward. Like, hey, we still got a lot of stuff on the table. You want to look at weeks like, hey, we're losing or we lost. We've got another opportunity. Every week we come out to win regardless. We just continue to fight as a team. That's a player's quote saying we still give a shit as opposed to a coach's quote saying, I'm really trying to get our team to still give a shit. Southern Miss or pass for this better.
Teddy, heading to the ACC up next. This is a game I really like. I like the Virginia Cavaliers. I got them personally -3. We've seen it bought up to 3.5, if not 4 right now. Louisville, a team with all kinds of COVID issues. Not sure how healthy they actually are. I think they're actually missing some guys for this game. We're seeing total 66.5 with Virginia -4 in Charlottesville.
2019, Louisville wins 28-21. Virginia was a 3.5-point favorite in that ball game. 2018, Virginia wins 27-3. They were 4.5-point favorites in that. So the two teams have split the meetings the last 2 years, each team winning and covering at home. Louisville used their bye week last week to pause football activities and limit any potential further COVID outbreaks. Virginia, they're 2-4, but they broke a 4-game losing streak when they beat North Carolina. They haven't played a game since that time. They've been to 3 straight bowls. They have their quarterback back this week. I can understand why you took a shot here with Virginia plus the points. I do have some concerns here. All right, because Virginia's problem, their biggest problem has been turnovers all year. They have 14 turnovers in 6 games, 1 turnover in every single game. Louisville, -11 in turnover differential. That's one of the worst in the country. They've only forced 4 turnovers all year long, but now they're facing an offense that has had problems holding onto the football at times that could bode well for them positively. Worth noting, against Malik Cunningham, Virginia's been without both starting safeties, Joey Blount, Brenton Nelson. There was hope they would be back. Bronco Mendenhall, quote, I don't think it's going to be enough time for his injured starters to get back on the field in the secondary. And one thing I want when facing Louisville, I do want a healthy secondary.
He's Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. We got 1 game left here, guys. And also check out his page, WagerTalk or SportsMemo.com. He's got a free play up, the Washington football team versus the Detroit Lions. Check that out for Sunday NFL action, in-depth analysis. He's got plays up at the site, 5% Sunday ticket here in the NFL. He's 6-0, 100% in November for NFL. He's 73% all sports since Halloween and also 57% in the NFL since 2015. So the long-term track record is there for the NFL. He's got his 5% up. Check him out, WagerTalk or SportsMemo.com. Teddy, last game up, and then we'll get a best bet for the section from you. This is the way we should end it here. The last game on the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast. It's got a little bit of a degenerate feel here, Teddy. 10:30 Eastern kick. 231-232, the rotation number. Utah at UCLA. We're seeing 59.5 being the total, with the Utah Utes laying 2.5 or 3 on the highway.
Yeah, I mean, there's Oregon State, Washington's at 8 or 11 East Coast, so there's even a later game than this one. But certainly, it is a late night bailout special. I have an opinion, by the way, on that Washington Oregon State game. I expect that play to be posted either later tonight, probably first thing in the morning. I do like to wait until Friday mornings to get one more practice report and one more chance for a line move in my favor. This has been Utah domination. 4 straight wins in this series. The last 3 years have all been blowouts. Combined score 138-30. Last year, 49-3, and it wasn't that close. Utah still has some COVID issues. The athletic director, quote, "We had some good results in our daily COVID testing with football. We continue to push ahead and prepare for our game for UCLA versus Saturday with hopes for more negative test results throughout the weeks. The focus, as always, is to follow the leadership of our medical profession." But so they're doing the rapid result daily antigen tests. They did them Wednesday morning. They did them Thursday morning. They have to do them again on Friday before the team leaves for LA. And then the results of Friday's testing can be known before they're able to go. And of course, last week, and this is something I didn't know exactly what the numbers were, and I went and looked this up. To meet the 53 scholarship player threshold for the Pac-12. All right, that's we're seeing the Pac-12 games being canceled. They haven't been able to get 53 players. Within that 53, a team has to have 1 scholarship players. A team has to have 1 quarterback, 4 defensive linemen, and 7 offensive linemen. Utah couldn't do that last week. They're hoping they'll be able to do it this week. Cornerback Malone Matalele, quote, "It definitely hurt not to be able to go out there and compete. If you put the work in, keep your head down, you can't be too mad at that. All you can do is prepare, put in the time, put in the effort. It's just about building and moving on to the next week." Kyle Whittingham, every day is different, and we got a few more positive this week that could knock us out for the game this weekend. Whittingham's quote, I think he said that yesterday or today. "It's a day-to-day thing, and we're doing our best to be able to play the game, but if we lose many more players, it may be another situation when we're not able to." So I don't like the quotes from Whittingham, and I don't want my money on UCLA. Okay. And when you talk about a coaching mismatch, Whittingham versus Kelly, Kelly's been collecting a fat check and doing nothing. I think he's made $600,000 per loss so far at UCLA. Good contract, good agent, bad results. I don't trust the Bruins to do anything.
Good breakdown there, Teddy. Also want to throw out 67% the team playing their first game against a team that's already played a game because the film is out. So that is in effect here with Utah not playing yet and UCLA already. But you bring up the fact of, the 53 scholarship players in order to play the game. Only 4 defensive line. Man, if you only have 4 defensive linemen going into a Division I football game, you're in trouble, Teddy.
What about 1 quarterback? Your quarterback takes a hit.
Oops.
Yeah, let's get the tailback, see what he can do.
Yeah.
This is it's not the same as like when a baseball team's getting blown out and they got to bring in a position player to pitch the 8th inning or the 9th inning or something. 4 defensive linemen, not enough to expect to be able to compete in a college football game.
Teddy, how much do you think is going on this year with teams like, oh man, we only have 4 defensive linemen or 5 defensive linemen. We're just going to not play the game. Do you think that's going on?
I don't know. I honestly, I really don't know whether so the coaches and I read a bunch of coaches quotes over the last 24 hours. This, where the coaches are all kind of throwing each other under the bus. Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, well, Vandy would have played, but I don't know if the coach really wants to extend their season,
right.
Stuff like that. I'm sure the teams that are struggling are not looking for reasons. They're not going to say, oh, well, we got 54. Let's make sure we get going. The teams that have had, but it's such a difference between teams that have played. What do we have? Teams that have played 8 games and teams that have played no games. The teams that are at towards the end of the season, if you're in these spots and you're not going anywhere, it's pretty easy to throw in the towel. And we talk about that as a South Carolina possibility. I talk about that as a Western Kentucky possibility this week. There's certainly teams like that around the college football world that we want to keep our eye on and we want to be betting at. A good bet against is every bit as good as a bet on, sometimes better. And we may have a good handful of those.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's almost better because also the fact that they run under the radar a little bit longer. If a team's, 0-5 ATS, not as many people talking about that and in the know as when a team's, 5-0 ATS. Like everybody knows Arkansas is a great bet, but people out there don't know when a team goes 0-5 ATS as much, I would say. But great stuff as always, Teddy. Closer here on the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast. Guys, if you want to go back and listen to the first 4 sections, they're all available on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, and about to post the Sports Memo podcast, so it will be available wherever you're downloading your podcasts at. But Teddy, do you want to leave us here with a most confident play for this section?
So I was debating which one I should. We should let's fade South Carolina.
Okay. I'm with you.
Let's fade. I mean, that was again, the back-to-back weeks where you're no-show. You have a coach who couldn't be on a hotter seat. You have QB issues. You have defensive issues, and you have an Ole Miss team that could put up points. Yeah, that's -11.
Hotty toddy, Ole Miss Rebels -11 in Oxford, Mississippi. Most confident play from Teddy Covers in this section. I like it as well, guys. So, guys, follow him on Twitter at Teddy_covers. His 5% in the NFL have been money. Check him out, WagerTalk or SportsMemo.com. He's got one up there right now. He's 73% all sports since Halloween, 6-0, 100% November NFL. And my favorite stat, 57% in the NFL since week 1 of 2015. So check him out at WagerTalk or SportsMemo.com. Packages and plays available. Teddy, anything you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
I want to say thanks for watching. Enjoy the games and good luck.
All right. Good luck from Teddy Covers. I am Drew Martin on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Follow him on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Guys, we'll be back Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time with the NFL opening line report. So guys, have a fun, safe,